What's good, everybody? I hope everybody's well. Hope you guys are making it happen, making it do what it do. You know what I'm saying? Listen, we're going to jump straight into it. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, share, all that kind of good stuff. So we're going to jump right into it here. We're going to talk about what do the men do wrong, or how come I never talk about what men do and all this kind of stuff. First of all, I got a playlist of, I think that's the majority of my playlist. It's like 60 plus videos in the playlist dedicated to men, telling them to be better, do better, move forward, higher, and all that. Remember, I started this channel to try to talk to men about the issues that they have going on, and to improve themselves. So obviously, I see a need for improvement. Talk about my own upbringing and my own insecurities and what I had to deal with in order to become the best version of myself, and still am working on it. So yeah, I definitely want men to do better and be better. Now, in the realm of relationships, which I assume is what most people are talking about when they're saying, "How come we never criticize men? How come we don't talk about men?" Just the other day we had a platform, which myself, Be Mindful, Anita from Better Love Movement, and Trey Kearney from her network, all about self improvement. We we had a great conversation about what the women need to do in order to correct that. Now, in response, I want to have them back on. I want to have them back on to talk about what they feel from a woman's perspective men are doing wrong. I've also reached out to a number of people, a couple of men, to have them on to talk about what are the things that men do wrong and what are the things that women do wrong. So we're gonna have a full, well-rounded conversation. I wish that we could do a little bit more. Well, we probably could do a little bit a big panel, a bigger panel, and kind of just talk about the things that men do right, the things that men do right, the things that men do wrong. Excuse me, what both races are doing wrong, and how we can get together. Um, so so let me just put this out here to um, let me just put this out here. My thoughts about what men do. My critique of men. My critique of men is everything that every woman has ever said. I think that there's probably not enough listening going on, and all that, right? But I think in the modern era, men have to kind of figure out, their place, their role, and how to navigate that and make that all that become effective and do what we are asking and requiring it for to be done, right? So a lot of times, ladies are saying they want somebody who's emotionally available, and this is the thing that is going on. Is that I played. I don't know if I have the clip anymore. I'm not going to go digging for it, but I played before a clip of a guy named gosh, what the heck is his name? He's an NYU professor, Scott Galloway, and talking about him when he was talking about, and he was on the panel with the Diary of a CEO. That was the name of the show, Diary of a CEO. Scott Galloway was on a panel with another Harvard professor whose name is escaping me. Excuse me, not Harvard professor, Harvard grad who studied some type of psychology, and now she is dedicated to helping high-powered ladies find what they're looking for as far as love. And one of the biggest things that they're stressing now is that men need to become more emotionally intelligent. Now, I have no idea what that means. It, you know, this tries to say. I think what they're saying is that men don't know how to talk. In the panel discussion, if you go back to my other videos, again, I'm not going to go dig for this, and I'm not going to go clip it and record it. I watch the previous videos of mine. So what she was saying is that some guy that she was talking to, a friend of hers, this is the Harvard professional, was saying that a male friend of hers says that guys concerning emotionally intelligent conversations are in second grade or something like that, when women are in grad school. More denigrating of men, trying to make us more emotionally available and viable. Again, the problem that I have with that, and I'm not saying men ought not to share their emotions and all this. I definitely agree with that. We're talking about the self-deletion rates of men. You got to start opening up and talking. The problem with that, and they acknowledge this on the panel, is that women aren't prepared for it. So a lot of the critiques, when you look at men, and you look at the critiques of men, these are things that women have have tacitly supported through their behaviors. You look at men who say, who can't stop cheating. You know why the man doesn't stop cheating? You know why he can't keep it in his pants? Because women reward it. You keep taking a dude back. You tolerate it. I'm not trying to push this off on women, but I'm just saying that when you look at a lot of the male behaviors that the guys are doing, the lying, the bad boy behavior, those who are not raising their babies, you're rewarding this man by continuing to be with him, continuing to give him sex. You see this guy as a deadbeat dad, you give him a baby. You're rewarding that type of behavior. You're rewarding it. You got to. Ladies today are doing so much better than they were in the past, and they're gloating about it. So if you don't need the man, why are you tolerating that type of behavior? The behaviors the things that I would critique in men, again, them lying to get sex, them dating more than one woman at a time, lying about that, um, you know, that's all problematic. I agree, but you got to hold them responsible and hold them. And if you start doing that, word will get out, word will spread that this is, these people over here, they're not going to tolerate that. They're not going to deal with that. So, we could go on and on about the things. And again, I don't want to spill the whole beans. I want to reserve this for a show that we're going to do. But I have plenty of smoke for the men. Those who are, in particular, those who are not on their game, on their grind, sitting in their mama's house playing video games, not attempting to do any better, not attempting to be any better, but just going along to get along and just, kind of coasting through life. But again, the reason that a lot of guys are coasting through life is because they don't see a reward system at the end of the rainbow. Why should I go to college and rack up $100,000 worth of debt? Why should I, um, and then still be told I'm not good enough for a woman for a variety of reasons? And listen, the object is to get them to do it for themselves, right? And so that's a lot of my messages. Forget whether you get a woman or not. You ought to do it for yourself because you want to become the best version of yourself. We only get one life, and to go through it miserable, to go through it suffering, to go through it, impoverished, this is something that is unacceptable. So listen, you men out there, they know in what areas they need to improve. And listen, I talk to my kids who have a vast network of friends and stuff, and they're all dealing with this, right? This isn't a 40-year-old problem. This isn't a 30-year-old problem. It's a 20-year-old problem. Not 20 years, but age group wise, it's 20-year-olds are dealing with these same type of problems, and so my smoke is for these kids and for these 30-year-olds to try to get them to understand that there's a bigger life out here to be had, and you got to do it for yourself. You got to become comfortable in yourself and love yourself and all that. So listen, I just want to drop this real quick and just say, listen, I got plenty of smoke from the men, plenty of smoke from not taking school seriously in their formative years to not considering college, although many of them are doing trades, and definitely I encourage that. But the guys, unfortunately, today have a problem of of a reward system that is not rewarding them. And I've been listening to some military experts stuff, with this talk about what was going on with Russia, Ukraine, and the Middle East, and China and stuff, right? They can't meet their quotas for men, and the men who do sign up oftentimes don't make it through boot camp. They're emotionally unstable, physically unstable, right? Haven't been raised in good homes. This soft generation has produced a bunch of weak men. So listen, man, this is where it all stems from. Matter of fact, I did a video about that, right? Where all these weak men coming from. So what are you talking about? I don't give guys smoke, but let me get back to the emotionally intelligent thing here, which is what many ladies are saying that they now require in relationships. Again, you're not rewarding that type of behavior, because when a guy does open up, and this is always the complaint. This is always the complaint from men is when we open up, you hold it against us, use it against us. Again, from the panel I talked about with Scott Galloway, NYU professor of marketing, And the particular lady, her name is escaping me, is they both said it that these ladies, they don't want to do it, right? They want a hard man, um, you know. So this is what we're dealing with here, man. This is what we're dealing with. So I, all the stuff that I see on podcasts and things, um, and I take that stuff in because I want to understand what it is that ladies are their complaints are. And one of the biggest things I said, that I saw, I don't know if I'll be able to find the article and slip it and clip it, but one of the biggest problems that women are finding when they have mates is these two things that I'm talking about. First is the emotional intelligence that they find, and they don't find a guy who they can have a conversation with. And I would say that you're just looking to turn these hard guys who are rough and tough, and you want a lumberjack to sit down and share his feelings, and when he does, you can't handle it. And the second thing is the financially viable man, which is the bulk of what I'm trying to address. What is it that this man makes this man unattractive, particularly from a financial perspective? Why is it that this man, you're overlooking this man because he doesn't have the clout, social mobility, education that you're looking for? When I talk to my kids, particularly my daughter and her friends, they're seeing the same thing in these boys and these guys, that they're my daughter hasn't really said she met anybody who don't know how to talk. But she has met people who, and this is anecdotal, I admit that, who are just not financially viable, right? They have no goals, dreams, visions, ambitions, drive to do anything. And the other thing that she recognizes or sees is that a lot of these guys, if they do have it together, they don't want to settle down, right? And this is if a guy's making good money, she's met some guys making good money, right? And she recognizes very early on that this guy's playing games, right? He's got a bunch of other ladies, and they're sloppy. These guys are sloppy with your text messages. You don't know who you're doing this with, but and that's another reason not to. That was a big problem in my mind. Is I don't remember who I took to the movies. I don't remember. I don't remember we took to or I went to a museum with her. These different exhibits I go to, or a fair, or what. I don't remember. So you're trying to date these multiple people, and I'm like, oh, you know what? You remember that time? Remember the movie we watched the other day? Oh, we didn't watch a movie. Well, so you forget. So these are things that men are going through. And those are the two biggest issues. The two biggest issues is the emotional intelligence and the financial viability. And again, the guys who are financially viable, they don't want to settle down because they're the cream of the crop, right? If you got money, looks, you're this guy, you're that dude. You're gonna have the pick of the litter. You're gonna have the pick of the litter. So, and they know it. So part of the issue is to get guys to settle down and to take marriage seriously. But if you want guys to take, I really am struggling to point the finger at men. I'm not excusing their bad behavior and all this, things that women have complained about before. Some of the, okay, let me finish this thought here. Some of the things that women have complained about have been addressed, or we need to address men from the past being violent. There's been really no proof of that. We got anecdotal evidence about that. The grape culture. Again, that's all anecdotal. The 2013, the FBI changed the definition of sexual assault, and when they changed that, then you saw the numbers drastically decrease. What men were doing, in particular black men. So this idea of domestic violence, he's got a baby all over the place, and this idea that we're just a bunch of testosterone filled rapists, it's just not accurate. It's just not true. It's just not true. It's just not true. And those are from the numbers points of view. Now, do men engage in these behaviors more than others? Yeah, okay, but to the degree that we thought, no. And I'm not saying yeah, okay, as in excusing it. I think we ought to do better, and it takes good, strong men to lead and to mentor the younger brothers in order to not to be these jerks that the ladies complaining about. I got no problem with that. When we need mentors to step up, and again, why don't men step up? Well, they don't want to step up because they feel as if they were neglected and overlooked. And one of their complaints is that you haven't been selected with your child's father, and now you want these other men who have been overlooked and who aren't deemed good enough to be boyfriends or husbands or whatever, but now you want them to help raise your children, help fix the community. This is the complaint that men have. So, you know, this is all the stuff that we're dealing with, that's going on, and trying to hold men to the fire is a difficult task because I don't mean difficult as it can't be done, but I'm saying that we know what these issues are, and Frederick Douglass says it's better to raise whole healthy children to try to fix broken men. A lot of these guys are set in their ways, and again, with modernity and the demand for financially viable men, and for the demand for um, emotionally intelligent men, the ladies have to reward those men. If the ladies are going after a guy because of his money, if you're all chasing that dude, then he's gonna act like a jerk. He's gonna be unfaithful. He's gonna engage in these behaviors. You know, and so both sides in that realm have to control themselves. You see a guy who's married, stop trying to steal him, stop trying to sleep with him. And to the guys, you want me to full throatedly say stop doing that? Yeah, okay. I full throatedly 10 toes down, say that the men ought to go out there and get married and have one wife and all that. Because, dishonesty, disloyalty, not being physically present in the home with your children is an issue. It's problematic. Again, I was raised without a father. So I made sure that I did things differently. Unfortunately, not everyone thinks the way I do. And sometimes people will follow in the path that they've seen rather than try to create their own path in life. Particularly, they see the troubles and mistakes that other people have made. And I've often maintained that smart men learn from their mistakes, but wise men can learn or should learn and will learn from the mistakes of others. So understand, what's going on here, and there's a reward system here that has to be checked, and we got to take a hard look at that reward system. So to the men out there who would listen to this, keep striving, keep going forward, and all that. But also, let me just finish this off with, what's changed in the last few years is it's even been written in my comment section. I've really seen in other comment section is that women have changed, right? They're no longer these docile, financially handicapped women of the past, and they've got this, that, and the other, and they don't need you. So what are you else going to bring to the table, and how else what are you going to do to show up? You know, trying to stick with the men here. But the men in those situations, those aren't things to get men to acquiesce. Those list of things to say, if you act right, essentially the ladies are saying, if you act right, you can get access to me. But those aren't things that we want. Not you as a person, but your job, career, those things really don't matter. So you've changed to make yourself more financially viable, stable, great. But those aren't things that men benefit from. So they'd rather stay home and sit home and do nothing. So that's the focus of my what I'm saying, of my channel. What I'm saying is, you want my opinion about what needs to change. I think that's first and foremost, is primary, is the attitude a lot of times that a lot of ladies display, and the nurturing aspect, right? And it's been said a number of times, if you haven't been raised to be a wife, then okay, what are we doing? Now, does that mean that we ought to forgive men who have not been raised to be husbands? No, we got to correct that. So, being part of being a husband is being a protector and provider. So you got to be in the home protecting. You got to be at the home providing, going to work providing, building careers, building financial futures, building a kingdom, building an empire, right? With the help of a beautiful woman on your arm that you're faithful and loyal to. So, and lying all the time and not wanting to settle down is problematic for the community's sake, and from a disease sake, and from bringing children into this world sake. Um, but another thing I wanted to talk about is fixing. What we have talked about, what's broken with men. Maybe I'll make this three things that men need to fix, or something like that. Again, I want to save a lot of this smoke for um, for the show that we're going to do. But the court system has to change, right? There's a video. I debated whether I was going to, maybe I'd make a clip right here, and because I was debating whether I was actually going to do a reaction to this. It's an Australian judge, and he's talking to a lady from Australia who is very much a men's rights activist. Her name is Bettina Arnold Arnst or something like that. And they had a great discussion about, and he talked about how the feminist policies were crept in and subverted the, um, and basically thwarted the rights of men. And a lot of these were male judges. See, they speak extensively in the full interview. It's a 50-minute interview. Spoke explicitly about how male feminist judges were punishing men and inserting their own thoughts and opinions, and always in every court case, whether it was alleged or not, if I understood what they were saying, but was alleged or not, always included some type of violence that the men were doing, right? And that's verbal violence, emotional violence, and trying to justify giving the women more for child support and alimony. This is in Australia. And if anybody doesn't know that, I mean, that okay, that doesn't mean it's the U.S. No, because that's the Western world. The Western world is, France, Britain. It's really the white colonization project, right? The white empire. The United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Israel, right? So it's all part of that.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote recently a blog about attempts at reform in the family court or the family court system, following my recent interview with John Stapleton, who's done a wonderful book about this whole history.
Yes, I've seen
And
it.
yeah, you read that, which of course exposes the court as a hated institution in many people's view, having a real bias against men. Do you think that's fair?
Oh, look, there are very good people in the court, very good judges sitting in the court doing a conscientious job, and not only judges, but there are family consultants and people writing reports who are doing a fine job and doing it conscientiously and trying to do their best for both the litigants and especially the children in parenting cases. But it's fundamental matters about the structure of the court, and of course, it's the reason we have a court is because there's something called the Family Law Act, and it's the
Mm-hmm.
Family Law Act that creates the real mischief. And of course, as you would know, Bettina, it's been a political plaything. Well, it was a political plaything. Politics brought it into existence
Yeah.
under Lionel Murphy back in the 70s, and politics plays with it with every change of government. And so over that last 50 years, the act, particularly the parenting provisions and the property division parts of the Family Law Act, have changed uh, and changed fairly distinctly with changes of government. And of course, mainly you'd have to say left-wing Labor governments, more influenced as they are by feminist doctrines, particularly in the 80s and 90s. And there's been a recrudescence of that since about 2013 under the Gillard government, and a particular Attorney General under the Gillard government. So judges do their best to cope with these things. They do their best to ignore them if they can, these ideological strictures that are baked into the Family Law Act.
It's all part of that. So when we talk about the West, this is what we're talking about. These, anybody who's been to school, you read papers from South Africa. You read papers from South Africa. I read papers, psychological profiles and papers about, Canadian, Australian, South African, Great Britain. A couple of papers from Norway, right? I'm not exactly sure if they would consider that the West. Probably West light, maybe. Some of them are. They're certainly part of NATO, some of those countries. Or they're joining NATO now. So anyway, so listen, this is just some of the things that men are dealing with, going through, and you want to change how men act or react in this society, change the court laws, reward them emotionally when and if they do open up, and yeah, we got to work on creating more financially viable men. So I want to address this real quick here, talk about how come I never have any smoke for men. So I have plenty of smoke. I want them to do better, be better, and particularly in the black community where our crime rates are through the roof, shooting each other, running around with guns. And this is what I do, right? This is how I got into the field, doing criminal justice work. And now, I do some reviews for some lawyers and stuff, right? And some cases from the Midwest I'm dealing with right now, where these guys are just running around with guns, illegally obtained guns, shooting at the police, trying to dump them. This is broken homes. This is fathers not being in their kids' lives. There's decisions that have to be made, and we're not. There's tough decisions that have to be made, and we're not making them. We're not making them. So anyway, so I want to drop this, and someone's calling me right now. All right, so I just want to drop this. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions, and hit me in the comment section. Let me know when you're right, whether I'm right, whether I'm wrong, whether you agree, disagree. And if there's any in particular subject you want me to address with men, remember we got some stuff coming up. So if you haven't watched it, it'll probably be on the lives where I got men going to talk about their problems. I'm going to give the women a chance to talk about male problems and all that. So let me know your thoughts, your opinions. Hit me in the comment section. Much love and peace.